You still vamp for time?
Oh no, we're good. We're good. What's up?
I'm just it's just frying, so I got a couple minutes. But yeah, I wanted to be the change. I wanted to be a change. I wanted to be a part of that change. And ultimately, I another games journalist came in and told my editor that I said, "Hey, I want to do objective reviews like the old days." And like basically said to the guy, "Hey, he's doing this. It's bad. It's terrible. It's this. It's that," and got me shit canned.
What is an objective review?
Well, is it what was it treating like as opposed to treating every game like I have to know absolutely everything about the genre and be like either hate reviewing or love reviewing a fucking game, treating a game like a product and reviewing it like a product, like we used to do before it became like every game is either political or fanatical devotion or fanatical hatred, you know, like normal reviews. So as I was trying to take it from a more objective standpoint, like does the game work? Is it something people of that genre are going to like? Are they going to enjoy this game for these reasons? What reasons would you enjoy this game for? Who is this game made for? That kind of thing. I personally thought my reviews came out really well, but you know,
Do you think there's value in criticizing video games or reviewing them from a or artistic or subjective or political
but and
perspective?
that's to me that's critique. That's when you get into the critique and like that was always when people start editorializing and it's like, well, that's a fine thing, but it's also you have to understand people are paying money for this game. So it's like, can we not go back to the days when we treated games like a product that they are and understood that, I think that would stop all this whole political nonsense. It's like, then you start to understand that the political nonsense they're adding in is just a pandering mechanic to make you buy the game, even though the game may have flaws, you know? Like, Last of Us 2, hello? Like, you take the story, you shit all over the story, you make a nonsensical story that makes no goddamn sense when you look at the story in a vacuum, and you do that after The Last of Us One, which is actually a pretty well written story. And it's like you only did this because you wanted to have a trans character and a non-binary character, and you want to throw all this crap in here that, again, could be written well, but very much wasn't. It was very much not written well. And, like if someone had actually reviewed that on its merits outside of the thing, they say the gameplay was is pretty good. They had issues. It had amazing features about accessibility, and the story was dog shit. And if they actually said that in a review and been honest, I mean, do you think it would have been a bad thing? No, it had to be politicized. It was nonsense.
So you're against diversity in games?
No, I'm not. I'm against forced diversity that has bad writing.
What is forced
Diversity is
diversity?
great. The
What?
Last of Us too. Like the them being like you saw the rape scene, right?
I've not
That
played
they
either
put
of
into
the
it.
Last of Us games.
Uh the one sec. I'll be right back. Beeping is happening, but I'll be right back. But I'll yes. So Last of Us.
All right, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I know. I'm sorry. I got pulled for the dinner card tonight, so I'm
Oh,
just
I
trying to.
I care more about the book than I do the stream, so you're fine.
Yes. Good. But yeah, the big thing with The Last of Us and Last of Us 2 is The Last of Us 1 had a pretty it wasn't like a stunning narrative. And if you're ever interested in playing it, let me know. I'm gonna spoil it.
I probably will at some point in my life.
Okay, so I won't spoil it, but it has a pretty basic narrative with a couple of nice twists, pretty good voice acting, pretty good characters, all that kind of stuff. The Last of Us 2 revisits those same characters, but they add in like an entirely separate storyline for another character they just made that is one of these diversity characters, and the story they end up telling makes no sense, um, for multiple reasons. It makes no sense, and it's like the ending ends up being extremely conflicting back and forth as to what the motivation is for one of the main characters. And so the storyline's not good. It's not good on a objective basis because it just doesn't make sense why characters say certain actions at certain points in the story, and certain scenes just don't need to exist. It's just poorly written. and it's poorly written because they're trying to force in this diversity. And it's like, okay, diversity can be written well. I've seen diversity written well. That ain't it. I mean, it's not Velma levels of bad, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
What's the difference between natural diversity and forced diversity?
Natural diversity feels natural and is included in the story in a natural fashion, and unnatural diversity tends to just turn to the camera and tell you what the message is. Like, I can freaking do things with my mind. That just happened. If you don't know where that's from, that's another game that they've done the same thing with.
The Life is Strange one?
No, that's not Life is Strange. No, God, it's Forsaken.
Oh, I've not seen it.
The voice, the storylining and voice acting is terrible. But it's because they tried doing this forced diversity character that people don't know how to write, and they write it terribly, and it's acted terribly, and it's just horrible. And it's like, okay, maybe find someone who has something to say, and then let them write it, and
How can
hopefully
you
it's
tell
better.
though? How can you tell though if it's forced or if it's just like poorly done because they're incompetent?
Well, I mean, most corporate products are forced. Let's put it to that, because they're not designed by an auteur anymore. They're designed by a committee of people that are trying to check a bunch of boxes, right? Like, we got to make sure we have the diverse character list. We got to make sure that we have microtransactions. We got to make sure, even if they don't make sense, because even that game has microtransactions and like skins and stuff that don't really make sense. You know, it turn, like, they want to treat the game like a product when they want to make money with it, and they want to make it a social statement when they want to sell it to you. That's why I'd love to see people coming back to objective reviews, being able to just look at a product as a product and say, this is a product that's not worth your time because it's either broken or it's badly monetized or this, and they can just ignore the attempts at pandering to people of diverse natures. I think
But
I think it's insulting to people.
is there no value in that? I mean, didn't Star Trek like deliberately have like a black crew member in the 19
Yeah,
Uhura,
they did.
and
But
also a
did they?
Russian too?
But did they ever be like? Did they ever turn to her and say, "Uhura, as a black woman, what do you think of this?" Well, as a black woman using the black experience, I believe the black experience says that I should be this way. Oh, that's amazing! Thank you for teaching us all this amazing lesson, Uhura. No, she was just a character in the show. She was just a character in the show, written as a normal, natural character of that time span. You know, like Jory the Forge didn't say, because of my blackness, I can solve this problem.
Well, but her
Like,
even being on the bridge as a major crew member, like that
yeah,
in and of itself was a political statement.
it was. It was, and it still is. And I mean, there was the first interracial kiss on one of the first, if not the first, interracial kiss on screen was Kirk and Uhura. You know, you can say something without shoving it in someone's face in a very blunt, non-conforming way. And one second, I got more beeping. I will be right. Hopefully, this is no. I got one more after this, so I'll be right back. Hello.
All right, where were we?
Talking about the destruction of the universe or something like that.
So, have you seen Deep Space Nine?
Yes.
Have you seen the episode Far Beyond the Stars where Sisko goes back to the 1950s?
Yeah, I know. Next Generation had similar episodes. Yeah, I know. Like there were occasional forced episodes like that. They tend to be looked back on as kind of like, why they do that?
I don't think so. I think Far Beyond the Stars is a pretty good episode.
I think so too, but I mean, like, not every time they do that, because it's been done a few times where they brought up racial issues and whatnot on the show, and I mean, it was much more tactful back then. I've got to admit, like it. I know some of the episodes, like I can't remember that one specifically. I remember seeing it, but I can't remember that one specifically. But I know that some of those episodes will look back on not as fondly these days. But I think they were much better done than things like, oh, I don't know, all of Big Mouth or all of Velma, or the reboot of Saints Row, or literally anything that's been done with the main drive being to force diversity in people's faces.
What about the Orville?
The Orville was funny. I've seen clips of it, but I've never seen the whole show, unfortunately.
They talk about social issues, sort of. Like there's obvious parallels between the social issues in the setting
Well, I
in
mean,
the
like
episodes
that's
and I think they handle them really well.
I mean,
Actually,
that's next gen all over the place. Next gen, like season 1 and 2 had a lot of that, and they had it on in later seasons too. There was always parallels. Like I remember one Next Generation episode where they're talking about how they had like they were dealing with how one planet was keeping another drug addicted so they could continue to use them as a labor force. I mean, that was at a time when that was kind of a thing that was happening in the real world. You know, so that was the thing that was being done, and like it talked about how them being drug dealers and them pushing pills on people and keeping them addicted to the said pills, solely because they said that they needed them because they said they were sick. you know it was at a time when prescription drugs were starting to become more of a thing, and you're starting to see people prescribing away problems, and it was a kind of a social commentary, but it was done in a nice, not heavy-handed way where they're turning the camera every 5 seconds, looking at the camera going, viewer, are you paying attention to this person's plight? Is this this is what the social message is. It's like there's a way to do it, and there's a means of doing it, and if you know how to do it, it can work out very well. But if you don't, it becomes completely ridiculously heavy-handed and annoying, and it ruins the media that it's being done in. It ruins the show or the production or the game or the book. It ruins it because it's nothing but heavy-handed preaching at that point.
so is your issue with the quote unquote forced diversity, or is it with like social commentary that's done bad?
Both. I mean, social commentary that's done bad is normally forced diversity. Like that's what it is these days. Like there are other times when it was, like one thing I always loved is as a kid, um, they had decided that GI Joe should be teaching people lessons, right? The toy commercial, the 30-minute long toy commercial, was supposed to teach people lessons, and so they
Winners don't
had
do drugs.
yes, and my favorite moment of modern history is when body massage became a thing. Body massage, body massage. You know the meme. Yeah, I'm sure
I
you
do
know the
not.
meme.
I think you're a bit older than me.
Oh my god. No. No. No, 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 no. G.I. Joe body. No. Really. You have not seen this. You have not seen the G.I. Joe PSAs.
I think I've seen like the memes of them, like the winners don't do drugs thing. But I've never like saw the commercials themselves. I think that was before
No,
my
I'm
time.
talking about the memes. G.I. Joe body massage. Body massage. Pork chop sandwiches. You've not seen these ones? You've
I
not.
guess not. I'm
I
an
sent you one.
uncultured swine.
I sent you one. Look at it. I'll be right back. I got one more load of nuggets to put through.
Okay. All right. Let's watch this together, chat.
Oh man, check out that thing, man.
What do you want to do with it?
Let's launch over it.
Who wants a body massage?
What did he just say to us?
Mr. Body
5 more
Massage
minutes
Machine,
and I'm
go.
all yours completely.
What the hell?
Body massage.
Making dinner is so much fun.
It wasn't really that funny.
No, but I'm just saying, like that is just one of them. And to me, that was like a great moment when I saw that. Cause I'm like, These were the dumbest fucking PSAs. Like you were just like that body massage when you just saw.
Yeah.
That was the video is legit, right? And it was about not touching power lines that were down in front of down across the road. That was the message of the PSA. This would be shown after you just watch a bunch of people shooting big laser guns at each other. Like totally disconnected from the context of anything. It's not like this was in a battle and he went out to save them and move the. No, this was just like at the end of the episode, there'd be these fucking things. And I just love the fact someone came around and mocked the shit out of them. You know? Like.
So if a developer wants to, like, they're making a game and they're like, I think I want to include a character who's from Africa. Is that forced diversity?
Then do your research, write it well, and do a good job of it. That's all I'm saying. Like, there's been characters from Africa. There's been characters from other countries and other productions. It's not like it hasn't happened before. It's just being done terribly now because they end up having to make them like the best example I can say is Rey from Star Wars, right? Because she's a woman, they decided that she cannot fail because it would look bad because now you're belittling women. So they decided that she's perfect at everything. She can outfight someone with a lightsaber, having never used a lightsaber. She can use the Force without ever being trained. She can fly the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo. She can do everything. She's the perfect character with no struggles and no issues. Why? Because if they tried giving her issues, they know they'd be mocked in the press by everyone saying, oh, they put a woman in there, but the woman is incapable. How dare they say a woman can't be capable? Captain Marvel was ruined for the same reason. Brie Larson was, she failed, quote unquote, to get back up, but at the same time, she really had no struggles. Like, that's the problem, is that because of this forced diversity, because they are forcing certain messages to be prevalent in these in media, it ruins the story. It just does. Like, you could look around, there's so many examples. Like, most of the poorly rated things by the audience are because the fucking people missed the mark. They just missed, like, the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid wasn't that bad. It was probably the best reboot that they've done. But, like, her character, like, she was totally not the right pick for that role. But why'd they pick her? Because she's black. Because she's black and she's a friend of Beyonce, I believe. I think she was Beyonce that she's like the protege of. And they picked her for those reasons. Did she fit that role? No. She was terrible in that role. Javier Bardem as King Triton was terrible in that role. Like, they were bad. They were bad. And if it wasn't for the fact that they were going to get press for doing it, they wouldn't have done it. They would have cast someone else who is good at acting. She's not good at acting most of the time. Every great once in a while, her co-star would pull something out of her, and those scenes were actually fun and looked good. And she actually, didn't just stare wall-eyed at the camera like a music video and like.
Are you still talking about the Little Mermaid?
Yes,
I've not seen it, so
I've seen. They wanted to take my kids to it, so we went to see it. And like I said, honestly, the biggest treat for me was Ursula. And I mean, people have mocked the performance, but I think she did a great job. I mean, she did not phone that performance in. She worked that performance as much as she could with all the CGI, But
I don't usually bring up things from the chat for these things, but I think that there actually is an interesting question here from Captain Carbine.
What's that?
How do you feel about Finn being censored in the Star Wars posters in China?
Oh, what that? I gotta pull nuggets out of the oven. Oh my god, you want? One sec. I just gotta make one announcement here. Okay, so the whole Finn thing, that shows you what the real motivation is, right? Like, if Disney wanted to promote diversity, first of all, Finn would have been the hero. Bottom line, Finn would have been the hero. You know, because he had the best character arc potential. He had the best storyline potential. He had the best of everything, right? He had the best opportunity to really have a great story. This person who was
Yeah, I agree.
a clone and a stormtrooper, and now he assumed the identity of Poe, who they brought back because they liked him, but he was supposed to have died in the original crash. One sec. Sorry, I was getting questioned by a little man.
No, you're fine.
So yeah, like, he would have been the better character, but they didn't use him because Disney couldn't market him in China. Because, oh my God, Chinese have a bias against black people, so we have to go ahead and take him off the posters, and we have to hide him. He doesn't belong in the movie because they won't go to it if he's there.
It's funny too, because I don't think they even like took him off completely in most of them. I think
No,
they
they made him much smaller.
They made him like
They made
super
him
tiny,
smaller.
so you couldn't even see him really.
That's why he said they ain't going to Disney Plus me, because he knew he was just being used as quota. That's all he was being used at that point in time. He was being used as quota because he should have been the hero of that movie. He should have been the person that led it. One sec.
Well, what direction would you have liked them to have taken Finn's character?
He should have been the chosen one. Not chosen, but like, he should have been the one that's actually done everything. He should have been the one to, learn how to fly the Millennium Falcon. He should have been the one to use the Force. He should have been the one to do all these things. He should have been the main character through the whole goddamn story. Poe should not have been there. They should let his character die like he was supposed to. It would have been far more interesting for him to deal with the fact that he's like dealing under two different identities. He's originally a clone stormtrooper. It would have been really super interesting if he played if they actually showed a clone of him on the other side of things. That would have been super interesting. Like, there's so many really cool things they could have done, but like, I think as Rich from Red Letter Media says, they're out of ideas for Star Wars. They're out of ideas for Star Wars. It's bankrupt. They're just repeating the old things. They brought back Palpatine, for Christ's sakes. Like, it's terrible. It's awful.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
The
sequel trilogy is garbage.
It is. It's utter garbage.
Which is there's so much they could have done differently and done better.
And it's because it was made as a product to make money off of the Star Wars IP. It was not because someone had something to say about it. Like, as much as you want to hate on the prequel trilogy, if people want to hate on the prequel trilogy, at least he was trying to say something with it. And he was trying to say it badly and terribly, and it was a god-awful series of movies, but at least he had something to say about it, At least it came from someone who had a vision of something. It's a terrible vision, but it was at least a vision, The sequel trilogy is just a bunch of garbage movies that have Star Wars slapped on them. The only thing that was really interesting is Rian Johnson tried to do something interesting, but I'm pretty sure he was crippled by Disney to not do certain things. At least it was something more interesting. We were like, they were not going to go with the whole chosen one narrative that Rey was someone special. Like, it was more interesting. At least it was trying things.
Oh, thanks for the follow, Sion the Great. I did actually ask that earlier, by the way. Sorry, I'm talking to the chat. Shoot, I should not do that. I'm used to streaming normal. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I do want to talk about what are some examples where they've done it well, diversity well.
Well, I think in Sandman they did it well. They changed Constantine to a woman. And I mean, it just was the same character but a woman. Like they didn't like try to rewrite the character in some bizarre way. She just was Joan Constantine instead of John Constantine. And the character was still interesting, still had flaws, still was something to pay attention to, you know, but it wasn't this overt heavy hammer. But that's because they had Neil Gaiman at the head of it. And Neil wouldn't let them. Neil has a vision for his characters. He's not going to let you destroy them. He's going to say you're going to have to do certain things, you know. And I mean, I'm sure most of that series has been gender bent. Like I haven't read the comics in forever. I'm sure most of that series has been gender bent, but it's done in such a way that it doesn't impact the story. It just is a part of the story. That's how you do it well. You can make statements about things. You can show people doing certain things. Just do it well in the context of the story you're telling. Don't make it the sole identifier. Don't put in a token character. You know, we hate tokenism, but then they just lap it up when there's a token just thrown at them. They're like, oh look, that person looks like me. It's like,
Well,
no.
Is there any value in having? I wouldn't like. Token has negative connotations to it, but is there any value in there being fictional characters that could serve as role models for black kids, and that they
Yeah, of
might
course.
more easily relate to a black character, let's say?
Yeah, of course. Miles Morales. Miles Morales is a great character.
Don't spoil the movies. I haven't seen them yet. I hear they're amazing.
No, I'm not going to spoil the characters existed long before the movies. Miles Morales wasn't just like, because see, a lot of the times when they switch races in the comics, it's tokenism. You know, they make they make Falcon or whatever, the Falcon, the Captain America for a while, right? They do these things that don't really make sense, right? But Miles has his own storyline. He has his own characteristics. He has his own history and his own backstory. He's a great character. And he's black. And that's not his sole identifier. He just is a great character. You can make a great character if you have a passion for writing that character. And I mean, his story is not the same as Peter Parker's. It's not just a reskin of Peter Parker's story. It's a different story. It has similarities because pretty much every hero has a tragic backstory, but his tragedy is not Peter's tragedy. You know, his story is not Peter's story. He is his own character, and he was made from the ground up. And it shows you what you can do when you want to have a diverse character, but you respect source material. You respect what came before. You respect what happens with that character. You know, you don't just say, "Well, I'm like," you don't like. It's like female Thor. Female Thor was terrible. Why? Because they just want to have her saying hammy things like "Don't mansplain to me" and shit like that. That was the purpose of doing the change. It wasn't because there was a story they want to tell the character. They just wanted the press from changing the character.
And to be
You
clear,
know?
they did actually like use the words mansplaining in the Thor comic, did they not?
Yes. Like there were several of those kind of look at the camera moments. Yes. Yes.
You know, some people who hear talk about forced diversity feel like that's a dog whistle for like, oh, this person just can't handle that they're making media that's not for them, or this person might be like holding on to like old school values of filmmaking.
No. It's not a dog whistle. It's literally saying do fucking better. They keep saying do better. Do better. Do better. This is not doing better. This is doing worse. You know, this is doing characters and writers and stories dirty. You know, this is not like, you know, oh here, like look at this. Look, this is one of the panels from that comic where she says mansplaining. I'm trying to find the actual mansplaining
I think I've
panel.
seen it before, but I'll pull it up for the chat.
Anyways, like if you want to show the chat, you can show the chat that stuff. I don't know. But yeah, it ultimately it's like when it becomes that ham-fisted, it's terrible. And the problem is that's what people are cheering on the left. They're like, oh, look at this. They're gonna own you. They're gonna do it. They're tearing down all the institutions you love. It's like, yes, but how does that help anyone? How does that help anyone? You know, it's the same thing that happened in Gamergate. It's like they were like the left was just wanting to see gamers get taken down a peg for whatever reason. Like I don't know why. You know, the same thing when they started like what's there's Comic Gate, and then there was all these different gates, which I hate the name Gate, but there was Watergate, so apparently this is what we call things now. But all of them basically were people coming into a space and trying to just ruin it for the people that actually love that space, just so they can shove their agenda in people's face and say, look at this, look at the trans rights, look at the feminist rights, look at the. It's like, yeah, but maybe make your own media or make good media if you're going to convert things that we love. Like, at least make me care about your character. Make me care that they have the issues. A good writer can do that. It doesn't matter if I don't understand their issues. A good writer can make you care about their characters. Just do that. Don't just take something and throw your values into it and force it to be the thing you want to see. Maybe try being creative. Maybe try being more subtle. You know?
It seems like there's a lot of. Go ahead. Let me finish.
No, go ahead.
It seems like there's a lot of issues in entertainment and art, but like I think that like the quote unquote forced diversity stuff, like I kind of think it can be cringeworthy, and it's like is cringeworthy in some cases. Like you've seen like the female Thor, and I think like the race swapping characters and gender swapping characters, unless there's like a good reason for it, is like generally pretty stupid. But make your own character sort of thing. But I feel like that's like one of like the more minor issues that we have in Hollywood. I feel like there's like so many other bigger problems.
There
with,
are
like,
so
a
many
complete lack of creativity and a complete.
I always say for that, it's like, okay, we can complain about everything, but just because one thing bad doesn't mean no other thing bad. I'll think bad. You know, and I mean the creativity thing was explained perfectly by Matt Damon. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip. That's floating around the internet, but he was on Hot Ones, and he explained basically why you don't see movies that are creative anymore. It's because the DVD industry is dead. Home movie is dead. And that used to be how they'd make money back on productions that were not expected to be successful in the theaters, right? So something like they'd be able to pitch something that's more risky because they can always say, well, we can make it back in rentals. You know, we can make it back in rental sales. So that used to be a reliable way for them to get rental sales or DVD sales or VHS sales. You know, that used to be a way for them to make money back on a project that may have bombed at the box office. And so that used to be a wedge they could use. Now it's literally like, oh, well, we don't want to risk anything. We don't want to risk having a bad movie, so we're just going to use established properties that we can easily market. You know, and that just kills creativity in the United States film industry. Now, there is a lot of stuff going on in other markets, but people don't care about that. They only care about what's going on in North America because that's where they live. And it's like, I want to watch a movie from Hollywood. Me want to watch a movie from Hollywood. You know?
Anything else you want to talk about regarding diversity?
Regarding diversity? Just do better. Do actually better. You know? Like, make stories that like you can make people care about a character. Miles Morales showcases that so well, right? Like, there was backlash when they originally brought him out. I mean, I don't know if you were around in that day. You probably weren't reading comics and stuff like that.
I was never a big comics person.
Yeah, exactly. So when Miles Morales came out, there was backlash. There was fucking backlash. Because, oh no, that's a black Spider-Man. I don't want a black Spider-Man. I want Peter Parker. But then they made them love Miles Morales because he just was this really good character, really well written, really well produced. The art was always very good in his books, and they made people care that he existed. And now look at him. He's freaking everywhere. You know, to me, that's a great success story. You had passion for a character. You made your character have a mark on the world. Right? You can do that. Anyone can do that. If you have enough passion for your character and you can show people that they should be respected as a character, you can do that. Don't just make them a mouthpiece for your personal agenda
What's
because no
interesting?
one wants that.
What's interesting is like Miles Morales is a character. I've not seen the the movies or read the comics really, but
Mhm.
everyone like who I know is like conservative or like anti SJW or whatever, they all love him as a character, and it's like even the people who are like generally roll their eyes at like the forced diversity or whatever, right? They love him as a character, and
It's because
I
he's a fucking good character.
don't. Yeah,
I don't want. I would tell you why, but I want you to watch the movies.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
like,
want to
I
spoil
care
you.
more about the book than I care about spoilers for a film I might watch like 10 years from now if I ever get bored. So, by all means, spoil that way.
Well, the big differences with Miles's controversy is like, first of all, his father's a cop, so like, and he actually ends up opposing his own father because his father wants law and order, and he's out there being Spider-Man, and then his dead uncle is a criminal, so his family's already split in this horrible way of like his father is the law and order and his uncle who eventually gets killed in the movie. I can't remember how it worked out in the comics if he's still around or not, but like it puts him at odds in his own family, right? And so it gives him conflict in his family to start with that yes is familiar because pretty much every hero story starts with some kind of tragedy and whatnot, but it makes him a more realistic character. It makes him more like he has his own storyline, and past that he isn't just like a clone of Peter Parker, right? He has his own personality, his own issues, his own vibe. He likes to tag up the city when he goes around. He's a street artist, he's a graffiti artist. He has a bunch of character traits that are just interesting because they are him, right? He is an artist and that's how he sees things, and so they've always put that in there. It's sort of like how they used to have She-Hulk being the reality breaking character that she was before they decided to ruin her and throw her into the stupid TV show they did about her. It's like they have like you can be creative with a character and you can have a diverse character be interesting, but you just have to make the character actually interesting. And the reason why left and right both love him is because he's just a good character. He's just solid. You can't complain about him. You know, it's sort of like the original Ghostbusters. You can't complain about those characters. They were well acted, well written. It's just they just worked. It worked in the time. They're timeless. Like you can watch that movie today and still enjoy it. It's still funny today. Some of the references are dated, but not very many, because it was made to be a good creative endeavor, right? It wasn't made to talk about the issues of today. It was made just to be entertaining, to be something you enjoyed. And that's the problem with today's media is that you have people that want to take their art and make it say something. And it's like you can say something timeless with your art, but it's a fine line you're walking between making something that's timeless and making something that's going to age like spoiled milk. You know, you have to walk that line. It's better to just focus first on making your art. And then if it says something, it says something.